Prepare for an enlightening episode as we sit down with a true visionary in the franchise world, Rich Blanton, member of the Business Alliance and CEO of FranVisionary. After spending 15 years in the corporate world, Rich realized that the allure of the corporate life had waned on him. The lack of control over his time and energy, coupled with the absence of tangible outcomes, led him to embark on a new journey, a leap of faith into the realm of business opportunities. Rich's corporate tenure was marked by serving clients in the healthcare industry, navigating the complex landscape as a sales executive for the world's largest privately held medical manufacturer and distributor. Identifying that client pain point and crafting innovative solutions became second nature. Now, as the founder and CEO of FranVisionary, Rich is on a mission to empower executives and veterans considering business ownership. His meticulous approach aims to help individuals find their entrepreneurial journey with purpose and passion. Rich's personal relationships with over 350 CEOs and franchise developers in the US and internationally has shown through to his dedication and his clear goal to bring franchise knowledge and business expertise, creating a better tomorrow for his clients and the people around them. Every step of the way, he ensures his clients are educated through the entire process. So you are in for a treat. Rich, welcome to the Franchise Happy Hour.
Thanks, Dylan. Glad to be a part of your show, man.
Absolutely, man. I can't wait to get started. I know me and you have great conversations when we met in person, so I'm excited about this one. And listen, if you're out there and you are an eager franchisee in the making, determined to be an entrepreneur, or just an advocate for building legacies, this episode is going to open a door to a journey in franchising for you. All right, man. So let's get it started. I got to start off right off the bat. Are you having any cocktails tonight? You got a drink with you for the franchise happy hour here?
Got a little bit of the special Blanton's bourbon here, my friend.
I like it. Rich Blanton, drinking Blantons. Are you in Blanton? Is the town called Blanton too, by chance? You own the town as well?
Well, I can only wish, but I do not.
Well, I love that for you, man. I'm just over here having a nice Miller Lite. Basic guy, love it. Got to keep that Miller Lite flowing. But as soon as they give me a sponsorship, I might toss them in a little bit more. How you doing? But hey, man, great to have you on here. I just want to start out by saying I appreciate you coming out, visiting us here at Joshua Tree Experts. About a month or so back. What a great opportunity! Loved meeting you in person. Whenever you talked about coming on here, I was super excited for it.
Yeah, man, it was a great time. It really opened my eyes up to an emerging brand like you guys. And it's one thing I try to talk to about my clients is the difference in emerging brands. And one thing you guys have it together is it's emerging as a franchise, but not emerging as a business. And I'm just really fired up to see the support system that you guys have for your franchisees. And that's one thing I like to do is any opportunity I get is to visit franchises, especially like yourself, and verify for myself, is this a good brand that I'd represent? Is this a brand that I would own? Absolutely, 100%.
I love that. That's very smart too. Then you have that touch point. It's like I personally would do this. That's why I'm not going to recommend something that, if I wouldn't do it, why would I tell you to do it, right?
That's exactly right. Not into sales, man. I'm into consulting and helping people.
I love that. I say that all the time. I'm more like a journeyman, if you will. I'm just helping you a guide along your journey, right?
That's exactly right.
So, Rich, I want you to share with the listeners kind of about your journey. I talked a little bit about your world in the you're from the corporate world. Let's talk a little bit about your journey and how you became a franchise consultant.
Yeah, try to do a 30,000-foot view if I can. My wife says I can't do that because I speak too much, but it began long ago, actually. Looked at owning my own business, but just didn't have the gumption to go out on my own and do it early in my 20s. So after working in the corporate world for many, many years, and especially with the last company I worked with, After I was let go from that company, I realized, it's time to make some serious changes. It's time to do something for myself and have the opportunity to do so. So I started looking at franchise. Actually, I started looking at local businesses first.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing ever really panned out. I looked at 20, 30-year-old businesses, somebody that didn't have anybody to pass it along to, another family member, etc. Didn't really work out or pan out for me. And then one of my best friends, his wife, was best friends with this lady that owned a franchise in the area. That business was called Kitchen Tune Up, and they were going to sell it. Wasn't on the market yet, but we're going to sell it. Long story short, I went through the process kind of backwards to what you normally go through a process with. Talked to the franchise developer, talked to the CEO. We're all on board, ready, to award the franchise, but we couldn't get the numbers worked out between me and the owner of that company. So that kind of went to the wayside. That's okay. And doors still open there for me. But then that's when I really started getting into the franchises and looking at different franchise models. And another best friend of mine said, man, this is where you need to go. This is what I'm going to do as a side gig, because he already had a very, very successful insurance company. And he said, let's go in together, split the risk, and let's work this business together. And that's how I really got started, by his inspiration. He's a true entrepreneur, I'll tell you, but he's just a fantastic business guy. So I jumped in, and man, I'm telling you, it unraveled a world of just different opportunities in looking at business, especially franchising, and gave me a lot of insight. And so he faded out eventually because he just wanted to focus on his insurance business, and I just completely took over the business. And that's kind of how I got started and got involved with Business Alliance.
Gotcha. And talk to me about what's the vision behind FranVisionary? Like, where did that, where's the idea? What do you want that to spark in people when you hear FranVisionary?
Well, I really wanted to spark the same thing it sparked for me we've all heard of franchises. We are, the thing that we all think of is the big franchise companies out there. And the biggest one that we think about is the Golden Arches, the McDonald's and so forth, the Chick-fil-A or whatnot. And I really want people to think about, what would your vision be in owning a franchise? Because when I was thinking about owning a franchise, like, I can't afford it. I can't afford to put $1 to $2 million out, and that's really what
Right.
those large restaurant type style businesses cost. And I really want people to understand that it doesn't take a lot to inject cash wise to really own a very, very successful franchise company, because the successful business models are already there, already planned out, just like you guys. It's just a matter of plugging in and doing it at a less cost basis, depending on if you have a home-based business, versus a build out versus large equipment, et cetera. I just want people to have the vision that yes, they can. If they're an entrepreneur and they really want to own a business, they can own a franchise business, but it's really up to them to get educated about it and understand, all the facets about franchising. And that's the thing I really love doing about this business.
Yeah. And I know that you specifically work a lot with veterans and executives from the corporate world. What's the passion behind that? Is there a reason you like working with either one of those groups more?
Yeah, well, I'm going to start off with veterans. And number one, I'm going to go ahead and say this before I forget this in our conversation. Happy Veterans Day early, brother.
Oh, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
just wanted to share that with you. I really appreciate our veterans. I am not personally a veteran. My father is a veteran. I spent the day with him today. In fact, he's 80 years old. I want to do as much as I can for any of my clients, but I especially want to serve the veterans, because the veterans have and are serving us daily. And I just have a big heart and a big passion to do all I can do for those that have served our country and are serving our country. And I'm working with some people right now that are in the phase of retirement from service and getting ready to transition back in, to the world of either I'm going to get a job or I'm going to own a business. So I'm really, really fascinated with learning and understanding where they're at and trying to help them determine, is this a good move for you or not?
Well, hey, cheers to that, brother. I appreciate you very much for that. Um, the veterans out there, it is Veterans Day coming up real soon here, and they do, man. They look for these opportunities. They don't even, you know, I've always thought personally, as a veteran myself, franchises are set up perfectly for them because when you're in the military, all you have is processes and procedures and SOPs. That's all you do. That's all you work off of. And that's what franchising is all about. That's the whole point of franchising, right? So, I'm glad that there's people out there like you that hey, want to help people who are transitioning out of the military. I think it's such an admirable thing to want to work with, specifically work with veterans and help them out. So I appreciate you very much on that. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad to do it. I haven't participated in that arena, but I did work for Raytheon Missile Systems Division and got a close look at how we can work with our veterans in that aspect as far as building missiles.
Mhm.
Man, I just want to give back all I can give back to them.
Yeah, that's great. And what's I know you work a lot with executives exiting the corporate world. Is that the relationship that you think that you can build with them because you've been there? Is that more what that's about?
I really think it is. I think having that understanding of being in that place and then leaving that area, that arena, if you will, I think I can understand where they're at, where they maybe want to go, and a way to get there if they're looking for a business of their own. I work with a lot of folks in the medical field simply because that's what I was in for 14 years. So I have a better understanding. We have I guess a good way of communicating with one another about understanding, hey, you're making X number of dollars, you want to come out, you want to do the same. But here's what I found in most of the folks I'm talking to, anywhere between age 42 and 55, especially in the exec world, is they found out the same thing I found out. Money was great up front because that's what we all work for, but you know what?
Mhm.
Money is not my idol. You know, time, you just can't buy your time back. And
Mhm.
so it's about building a business that you can have time with in the future. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, year one, year two, year three, but
Mhm.
it's something that you can have at the end and have something tangible as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, man. And I appreciate you doing that as well. I think if there's a listener out there and you're stuck in that corporate grind and you're looking for an exit, maybe Rich is the right guy to talk to, especially he's been in that world. He's been in touch with it. He knows the grind, what it looks like and how it's alluring, right? It lures you right in, doesn't it? But then it kind of shuts down some dreams if you might have them. So franchising opens it right back up, baby. I love it. um, so hey, I wanted to, talk about do you have a success story? Have you worked with someone who you were super proud of that went through the process? Maybe it was tough in the beginning, but they're killing it right now. I love listeners to be able to hear about, some of the people who are finding that success and how you've helped them get there.
Yeah, I tell you, it's not all about me. I will say that, but it's about timing in everybody's life and timing that we even have a conversation, right? Uh, there's this one young man, 34 years old. He's the youngest yet. Most of the folks I help are older, 45 plus. But
Yeah.
this guy was 12 years out of college, nice six-figure income, doing very well, but very disciplined. Always been looking at businesses. Actually had a few little businesses on the side, him and his wife did. And he's just said one of the things that's just stuck to me because it's the way I felt. He said, I just don't think I can handle another 30 years of Sunday evenings dreading Monday mornings.
Mm,
And I'm telling you, this guy is rocking and rolling, and I'm so proud of him and what he's doing, and bringing up a crew of people, of the like culture, right?
hmm
And then there's another story, opposite ends. A gentleman that moved up from Florida. I live in Tennessee. That moved up from Florida across the road from me. He owned a very successful business that he helped build after his father passed away, and built it for 25 years. And he sold his remaining shares to his partner. Moved to Tennessee, go semi-retire. He's like me. He's not going to retire. He wants to be active, do things, and help people. Right. Uh,
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing now. He's got a Mr. Handyman, and he's absolutely got a fantastic business growing. Year number 3 coming up, and it's just nice to see people succeed. And the reason they succeed is not that they only have a good, solid, successful business model to follow, but it's about how much effort that they want to put into it. What's their discipline? And if you've got that, you're going to grow a big business no matter what.
Yeah, I love that you just talked about that. My next question was actually going to be, what are some qualities that you think a successful franchisee might have? But let's flip that. What are some qualities, you talked about going out and exploring franchise opportunities to understand them better and to get that firsthand interaction. What are some qualities that you're looking for, when you're evaluating a franchise for a franchisee?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. Well, one thing I want to know is what my client is looking for as far as a culture. I mean,
Mm,
that is literally number one in my book, and it should be in their book too. And we talk about that during our initial conversations. I look at the culture of the business and make sure that it lines up with the culture of what my client's looking for.
mhm.
Also, what's the success rate? What have they done in business? What are they doing to expand their business on a constant basis? What are they doing to help their franchisees? I look at a lot of different aspects, but the support system that a franchisor, I should say, has is very, very important. That's why I was impressed with Joshua Tree. Uh, you guys have a lot of the right folks in the right place to really throw in the support to grow a franchisee in their business. And that's really what it's about, is the corporate support, but also the franchisee support as well. So that's some of the things I look for in a franchisor.
That's excellent, man. And I appreciate you giving us a toss out there. That's
100%.
awesome. You know, so let's touch a little bit more, dive a little bit more into the franchisee. What are some more you talked about someone who, sorry, what did you say? You said, what are those, key features or key qualities that a well-rounded franchisee might have?
Oh, that's another great question. Well, number one, you have to have discipline.
Mm,
Uh, you have to have the drive, and the drive meaning the why. And I know we get tired of hearing that in life, but that's the truth. If you
yeah.
don't have a good enough reason that you really want to build a business, you really don't need to look at it. And
Hmm.
I've only told a couple of people that. I just told them they really need just to keep their job. And that's not being disrespectful. That's just being transparent and
Yeah.
honest, because
Yeah.
I like to sleep at night. But
Yes.
no, you got to have the why. You got to have the reason. And yes, do you have to have the financials? Of course. It's what I tell most
Yeah.
people. You go to a bank, you and your wife are looking at $1 million house. You go to the bank says, "Oh, you can't look at $1 million house. You need to look at a $500,000 house." So financials are important. We always go over that first thing, because we need to kind of get that out of the way. A lot of people think, oh, including myself, when I'm looking at franchises to buy myself, is I've got to have $500,000. I've got to have it net. Well, yeah, we have that, but you don't have to have that. Depends on
Hmm.
what type of business it is. You got to have the enough to pay for the franchise fees to get you started properly in the business and some working capital for 3 to 6 months. The franchisor does not want you to fail,
Hmm.
and neither do I. So we want
Yeah.
to get all that set up properly. But those are the key things I look for in a very successful franchisee. And the other factor is, can they manage people? Can they manage projects? Do they have the ability to be adaptable? Because it's really what you have to become in a franchise ownership process.
Yeah. I think you talk about that adaptability. I love that word. At Joshua Tree, improve and adapt is one of our core values. And I think that as a business owner, you have to be able to adapt to every situation because you're gonna have hard times. It's not everything's gonna be sunshine and rainbows. And if you think just because you buy a franchise, it's going to be that, it's it's not this perfect thing. It's gonna have bumps. And I was speaking with someone recently, and I love what they said. The franchisor didn't make all the mistakes. They took all the road bumps out of the road. And I thought that that was such a clever way to put it. And just because it's not a mistake to do something different, or learn from something. It's really just, it's a speed bump, right? But you have to be able to adapt to it. And I think that's an excellent way you just put that.
Yeah, I think you said something important there is what you guys have done and what franchisors do is they really pave the way, right?
Hmm.
They cleared the way to a pretty successful business model that they know that works. It's already been proven, but it doesn't mean it can't be improved. And the way that
Hmm.
they do that is partnering up with their franchisees, because franchisees have a lot of good ideas, and that's where communication and things like that transfer very easily between a good franchisor and franchisees. And then you adapt, you make changes, and make a better system for everyone.
Yeah. And I gotta do a quick shout out here to emerging brands specifically. That is like so important, just coming from an emerging brand. And I'm sure you can speak to this as well. Uh, Hey, we've done this, X amount of times, we've done it, but we're looking for people to partner with, create that marriage with, that give us those ideas that actually help us improve. Right. And I think you hit it dead on the head with when you said that. So
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, iron sharpens iron, right? And that's really
yeah.
what they're doing. And I love that, people ask me, oh, I guess emerging isn't a good thing to get into. And I said, no, no, no. It depends upon the franchise corporation. Let's make sure we're looking at the right company. If
Yeah.
somebody's just came out in 2023 and they're starting to franchise, I say they don't have a proven track record.
Yeah.
For example, you guys have been out 17 years in the business force and you started franchising and you already started getting good franchisees involved. The beauty of
Mhm.
that is what you just said. Not only do you have franchisees who are just willing to share their ideas as well, but the fact is you guys are giving them so much support up front, and it's more one-on-one. There's just so much communication going on, and I think that's powerful in an
Mhm.
emerging franchise because you can grow so fast if you choose to.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Seriously, that's awesome. I appreciate you saying that. Um, so hey, I want to pivot a little bit and talk about, you know, I think we talked a little bit about it with the Chick-fil-A's and the Golden Arches. Let's talk about those mixed conceptions of franchising. What are the common things that you've experienced as your time in consulting, that you're kind of finding that I'm gonna have to train and educate a little bit more about this.
Oh, that's a great question. And it's one that comes up quite often. I mean, there's several things that come up. One is, do I have to have cash full up front? Well, no. And I relate to people just like with a house, because people understand houses and buying a home. Did you pay cash for your home? No. It's a long-term commitment, right?
Yep.
And just the same with franchising, it's a long-term commitment for your gain. So that's one thing. The other thing is I can't afford it. Well, not true. Let me tell you why, because I felt the same way. Because we're all thinking of those big boys, the $1 million+
Yeah.
and yeah, there's plenty of them out there. Your large fitness centers, man, million, 2 million bucks right out the door. Your large, car washes that they're building today, 1 to 2 million right out the door.
Mhm.
Yes, but the majority of franchises in America, and there's almost 5,000 franchise or brands in America. It's insane. There's 800,000 franchises in America, franchisees, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
franchisees in America. And the thing about it is it doesn't take a lot of capital truly to start a franchise. Safely to say 85 to 200,000 in a lot of home-based franchises, you can get started easily,
Mhm.
easily. And again, franchisors aren't going to set you up to fail. Uh,
Right.
you're going to set you up for success. Anytime you've got equipment you've got to buy, anytime you got to build out or whatnot, yes, you're going to put a little bit more into that franchise. But there's so many facets of funding out there. that's awesome for our
Yeah.
veterans, SBAs, conventional loans, Rob's program. There's so many ways you can fund a business to help you grow that will not tear you down, will not be a burden on your life. Some other things that come up, people are just not understanding what franchise brand models there are. There's the home-based model. There's a semi-absentee and there's an absentee. Nothing's truly ever really absentee, but close, right? You got to keep the thumb on the pulse if you want to make money, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You can't be in Fiji for like 3 years and
100%.
You might be able to take a month off, that's the goal, right? You want to take a month off and nothing's affected and you want to be able to come back and it's like business as usual.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I would say there's a lot of great things that people come up with. Answering your question is, I think the biggest one is, this is something you don't rush into. This is not a 1 month wonder. Number one, it is literally a 4 to 6, 7, 8 month process from the time that I speak with my client to the time they're awarded a franchise. And let me emphasize, awarded a franchise. That's the that I educate people on is you can't, I've got $1 million in the bank. I can go buy a franchise. No, you can't. You can't go buy a franchise. You have to be awarded the franchise, because as I am qualifying my franchise corporations with my franchise potential client, so is my franchise corporations. They're qualifying them as well. So I do a pre-qualification to get them to have the conversation with you guys. And then it's really up to the franchisor to continue that qualification. But I tell my clients as well, you're interviewing them and they're interviewing you. If you guys have a really tight fit, then fantastic. You may be awarded a franchise.
Yeah, no, I think that's an excellent, a lot of people do just think, well, if I have the money, I'm what they need. They need me. And it's like, well, we need each other, and it's just like a marriage, right? You don't just like, it's not the Stone Age, I picked this one. It's mine, right? No, it's, hey, I want to do this and you want to do this. We're going to do this together. And that's exactly, franchising is a marriage. It's a 10-year marriage, hopefully longer, but it's at least a 10-year marriage, right?
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
So I appreciate you going into that. I think you made some great points. I love to also shout out, you talked about, owning equipment and stuff like that. I think that's a huge opportunity in franchising. You think about, hey, as much as you're going to put money out to make these purchases, I like the listeners to remember that those are assets that you own, right? Those are things that at the end of this term, you're going to be able to sell those, or God forbid something happens. You have assets to sell, right? And that is so important. There's a lot of concepts out there where you lease, right? You might lease like some commercial space or something like that. You don't own it, right? It's like, what are you going to do with it after you're done with it? If something happens, you're just going to, turn the lease over. But owning equipment, owning a bit like a shop or something like that you're working at if you can own something in a business, own it, because that is only going to be a real sellable asset, and honestly, an asset on your balance sheet at the end of the day too. So it helps out. Plus depreciation is a great thing. So I'm learning more as I stay in this franchise industry. I swear I'm learning so much, as I'm sure you are.
100%, man. And you said it right there. It's one thing some people don't realize is the tangible assets. I mean, is property, is equipment. And I'm not going to be your accountant here, but the fact is it's huge tax benefits and tax write-offs, not from just year one, but year continuing 1, 2, 3, and on. There's so many advantages there.
Yeah. And hopefully you keep scaling, and hopefully you keep building and buying more. And all that does is increase your asset, like how much assets you have. Absolutely. Just Man, franchising gets me fired up sometimes.
It does, man. And I love what you said. I'm glad you brought that up because I was definitely going to bring up the 10-year thing. So, most franchisors award franchises in 10-year increments. And a lot of people ask me, well, what do you do after 10 years? I said, well, that's really up to you. That's where
Hmm.
you develop an exit strategy. And
Hmm.
that is determined on where you are in life and what you want to do. You may want to continue your business. And if so, guess what? The franchisor wants you to continue the business because you're doing so well, you know.
Yeah.
So you can re-up for another 7 years or whatnot. The thing about it is you have a sellable, tangible asset, and you've made money all these years, and then you can exit and cash in.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you, when you're working with candidates, I know like personally, I believe you're gonna say yes to this. That's why I feel comfortable asking you. Are you following up with people, seeing how they're doing? Are you like one of those individuals who's not like, hey, I'm gonna sell you a franchise and then you're out the door, right? Now I have a feeling Rich is gonna stay involved.
Yeah, especially in the beginning, I want to stay involved and see how things are going. I think it's very important for that first year, maybe 2 years. And I think it's important to do after that as well. But especially in that first year, I think it's good to get their feedback. And it honestly helps me as well, because they're going to see things that I don't see necessarily because I don't own that specific franchise, and maybe talk to me about it. That way it
Hmm.
sharpens my skill set, maybe with another client, because I know a little bit more,
Hmm.
and can help them understand that business a little bit deeper.
Yeah, and I love where you're going with that because it kind of leads right into my next question here. Uh, we talked about all the great stuff. Let's talk about some challenges. What have been some challenges that you've faced as a franchise consultant?
Wow, that's a good one. I've had more challenges on the client side than I have on the franchisor side. Now I have had a
Okay.
few, but that's not they're few and far between.
Yeah.
Communication is key. We both know that.
Yeah.
Some of the challenges on the consultant side with my clients is initial conversations, is if they don't really share, their full needs assessment, if you will. And we
Yeah.
actually go through that. But if they don't share that and communicate really well on maybe some things that we're talking about brand wise, some areas of interest, and sometimes I'll throw out a brand that may be outside of their realm to
Hmm.
get them to open up their mind and think a little bit. But if that communication is not really laser focused, it really limits me on how I can help them. And
Yeah.
then, and then they may lose interest. And listen, man, that's fine if they do. I'm not here to sell anybody anything. I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
But I really can't help somebody if they're not being fully disclosed with me about their direction and where they want to go.
Yeah, and I love that idea that you work with clients to find that needs assessment, to assess that why. I think if you're listening out there and you want to know, in my opinion, what can you do to help you find a better brand outside of just talking to Rich here because he's gonna help you anyway. But I think it's just being vulnerable. I think you gotta, the way I look at it is y'all are like coaches, in my opinion. And you really got to be vulnerable with someone and tell them, because you can't just put on this shell where you've always had this shell, in corporate America. It's like, I'm the best. Like, you have to be a little bit vulnerable about what you're looking for, what your passion is, where your interests lie, because that's going to help you. I think that's your, Rich, that's your job, right? Like, that's your goal, is to help find that. And if you're listening out there, that's what you got to do, right?
Yeah, man, you hit the nail on the head. And I'll just say this, there is no matter how vulnerable you are, I will tell people there is no perfect franchise for you.
Yeah.
Why do I say that for? People's like, no, there is.
Don't tell me that, Rich.
No, there is a franchise. I love what you said about a marriage. It is, there's a lot of people that can get along with a lot of people, right? So a franchise business is kind of the same thing in a marriage. There's a lot of business concepts that would work well for individuals based off of what they're really looking for. but there's no perfect business because there's no perfect people. There's just a
Yeah.
business that fits better, right?
Yeah. No, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I think that, I could talk all day about how that marriage interacts, because it really is just so important, especially when you get to that final line. It's like, wow, man, I'm about to make a commitment. It's crazy. No, I love it though. It's so exciting. Um, so, I wanted to open it up as far as if somebody out there is listening right now, and they're thinking, all right, Rich, this is sounding like I might be interested. What would be like one little nugget of wisdom that you might leave them, as far as like, hey, if you're looking at it and you're contemplating taking that next step, what would be that little nugget of wisdom that you might leave with them that kind of help them get along their journey?
Oh yeah, that's great. I would recommend, whether it's with me or someone else that you can trust, talk to someone and ask questions, get educated, understand the business and how it works and what it's all about. Because if you're not educating yourself and you're questioning it but never reach out, then you're probably not going to do anything. I just highly recommend you speak to someone and get an understanding of how the franchise world works. Uh, it opened up my eyes big time.
Yeah, yeah. And I gotta say, it's been a wild ride already, and I've only been in franchising for like 9 months. So it has been quite the journey. It's fun. You get to meet so many interesting people. You get to live an adventurous life almost. Every day's a new day as a franchisor, and I'm sure as a franchisee it's even tenfold sometimes, because you're just experiencing so many things. um you know what keeps you going? Let's transition into that. What keeps Rich going every single day to get out of bed and help people find the franchises?
Fantastic, man. I appreciate you asking that question. Well, I'm going to say this because I think it's very important, and I'm very transparent about this to my clients. Is I don't depend on this to put bread on the table. I've got a nice stream of income elsewhere. I do this because I love it.
Mm,
We've always heard, find something that you love doing and you'll never work another day in your life. Man, I'm right here. I'm doing it. I
mhm,
love helping people get to the next level. And if that next level is just understanding that business ownership is for them or is not for them, fantastic. I think
mhm,
it's important to go through the process, understand the process, be methodical about the process, and really educate people on what it's about, what you can become, who you can work for, and the type of people that you have in your network. Because the people that we have in our network is just incredible. And
mhm.
that's it, man. Just educate yourself.
I love that. And you know what's great about franchising, man, is education is free.
Amen.
That is so crazy. You can go through this whole process and learn everything for absolutely no cost to you. That is incredible. But hey, thank you so much, man. It has been an absolute pleasure. If you haven't listened before, I do have a little surprise for you here at the end. So I do a segment called Ask Chat GPT. So what I've done is I've gone to Chat GPT and I said, hey, I'm having a conversation with Rich. Give me like some situation that you are now going to have two outcomes, right? But you got to choose a path in which way you're going to go. So here is the situation that Chat GPT gave me. Rich, you find yourself standing at a crossroads in a charming European city, surrounded by centuries old architecture and a bustling atmosphere. Your adventurous spirit beckons you to choose between two intriguing paths. Option one leads you down a narrow cobblestone street of historic in a historic district, lined with quaint cafes, artisanal shops, and street performers. The air is filled with the scent of freshly baked pastries, and every turn reveals a new hidden gem with stories etched in the walls. On the other hand, Option 2 invites you to ascend a stone staircase that winds its way up a lush hillside. At the top, a centuries-old castle stands proudly, offering a panoramic view of the city below. The promise of history, breathtaking landscapes, and a scene entices you to take the path less traveled. Now you stand at this juncture, torn between the charm of a city's heart and the allure of an elevated castle experience. Which will you go with?
Well, you had me going there for a minute, but this is pretty easy for me, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to take that narrow path down the cobblestone.
Okay, why is that?
Simply because if I was sitting on that mountain at that beautiful castle, and I love architecture, but the architecture is also down in town, is I'm just going to be looking at the town. If I take the narrow cobblestone road, man, I'll be adventurous and enjoying that town.
I love it. You're going into the path. I love that, man. You're not going to see it. You want to experience it. I get that. I get that. Plus, they got pastries, apparently. So, I mean, that can't be a bad gig. They might have Blantons as well.
That'd be great.
Well, hey, man, thank you so much. Before we jump off here, before that, if you're a listener out there and you think, hey, I like where Rich is going with this. I like his vibe. I like what he's putting out. And I think that he can help me find a franchise. Rich, if someone wants to get in contact with you and talk about igniting their entrepreneurial journey with passion and purpose, what's the best way that they can do that?
It's simple. 423-408-1711. Call me.
That's easy enough. I love it. Give Rich a call. I think he's going to help you, and I think you're going to have an excellent experience with him. With that being said, Rich, thank you so much, buddy, for being a part of the Franchise Happy Hour. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Man, Dylan, thank you, buddy, for hosting me on this awesome hour of power. I mean, this was fantastic. It's always good catching up with you. I'd rather do it in person, but man, cheers and thank you for having me.